It was supposed to be a simple surveillance mission, not the night my heart would betray me. The first time I saw him, I should have pulled the trigger. Instead, I froze, captivated by the smirk of the man I had been hunting for months. The city of Chicago buzzed with its usual chaos sirens in the distance, neon signs flickering, the wet pavement reflecting every shard of light. I leaned against my car, pretending to smoke, eyes locked on the bar across the street. That was where he was last spotted. Adrian Vega, a name that carried weight in the underworld. People spoke of him in whispers, painting him as a monster. But when he stepped out, I swear time folded around him. He wasn't supposed to be beautiful. Criminals weren't supposed to look like fallen angels with messy black hair and eyes that made you feel both seen and undressed at once. My chest tightened. I hated myself for noticing. I was Detective Ethan Hayes, 24 years old, youngest on the force, and sworn to uphold the law. He was my target. My job was to catch him, not feel anything else. But God, when he laughed with the man beside him, cigarette smoke curling from his lips, I wanted to know what it felt like to be the reason behind that laugh. I told myself it was strategy. Get closer, observe, gather intel. That's why, when Adrian caught me staring across the street, I didn't look away. That's why, when he tilted his head and raised an eyebrow inviting, daring, I crushed the cigarette under my shoe and walked straight into the lion's den. The bar was warm, buzzing with music and cheap perfume, the air thick with alcohol. He sat at a corner booth, a glass of whiskey in hand. His men flanked him, but his eyes never left me as I approached. "You're either lost," he said when I stopped at his table, voice smooth like velvet over steel, "or you're looking for trouble." "Maybe both," I replied, forcing calm. Inside, my pulse hammered. Adrian leaned back, studying me like he already knew my secrets. "What's your name, stranger?" I should have lied. I should have used a cover. Instead, I heard myself say, "Ethan." The smirk widened. "Well, Ethan, you don't belong here. But something tells me you knew that already." He dismissed his men with a flick of his hand. Now it was just us, and the space between us burned. I sat down, close enough to smell the mix of whiskey and cologne on his skin. Dangerous, magnetic, wrong in every way, yet it felt inevitable. "You're brave," he said softly. "Or stupid. Maybe both." I echoed his earlier words, and he laughed. That laugh. It was the sound of walls cracking. I didn't realize until much later that he had recognized me that very night. He knew who I was, knew I was police. But instead of exposing me, he played along. Toyed with me, tested me. Maybe he wanted to see how far I'd go. Or maybe just maybe he saw the same hunger in me that I saw in him. For weeks after, I found excuses to return. Watching, pretending it was all part of the job. But every conversation, every accidental touch, tangled me deeper in a web I couldn't escape. My superiors thought I was making progress on the case. In truth, I was falling for the man I should have hated most. One night, after too many drinks and too many stolen glances, he leaned close, lips brushing my ear. "Tell me, detective," he whispered, confirming what I never told him. "Do you dream of catching me, or kissing me?" I should have walked away. I should have pulled out my badge, ended it right there. Instead, I let his hand rest against mine under the table. I let my silence speak for me. Dangerous, stupid, irresistible. That was the night everything changed. The night Adrian disappeared was the night I realized how deep I had sunk. One moment, he was beside me, cigarette glowing in the dark as we sat on the roof of his hideout, trading stories we weren't supposed to share. The next, he was gone, vanished into the shadows, leaving only the faint echo of his laughter. The police raided his warehouse the following morning, and my cover nearly blew. My captain barked orders, my colleagues celebrated the lead, and I, God help me, felt empty. Every instinct told me to treat him like a criminal on the run. Every heartbeat reminded me he had become so much more. For weeks, the city became a chessboard. I knew his patterns, his habits, his ghosts. I chased him not with the thrill of the hunt but with the desperation of a man searching for a missing piece of himself. And when I finally cornered him in a deserted motel outside Chicago, it wasn't my gun that trembled, it was my voice. "You should have run farther," I said, weapon raised, my heart tearing itself apart. Adrian smirked, though his eyes betrayed exhaustion. "And missed this reunion? Not a chance." "Don't," I warned, my voice breaking. "Don't make me do this." He stepped forward, slow, deliberate. My finger twitched on the trigger. "You won't shoot me," he said softly, closing the gap between us. "You've had so many chances, Ethan. And every time you chose me." The silence pressed heavy. My badge weighed like a curse in my pocket. "You're a criminal," I whispered. "And you're a detective," he countered, his hand brushing the barrel of my gun. "So why does it feel like we're the same?" I should have ended it. But instead, I let him press his forehead to mine, our breaths mingling, the gun slipping from my grip. For the first time in my life, I chose my heart over the law. But loving Adrian meant walking through fire. The department grew suspicious. My captain demanded answers. Each lie I told tightened the noose around my neck. Meanwhile, Adrian's enemies circled closer, rivals who wanted him dead, allies who no longer trusted him. We became fugitives in our own ways, clinging to each other like lifelines. One night, hiding in a rundown cabin in Michigan, I found him staring into the fire, his face shadowed with regret. "You should leave me," he said without looking at me. "Go back, save yourself. I'll only drag you down." I crossed the room and grabbed his hand, forcing him to meet my eyes. "Do you think I care about saving myself? You've already ruined me, Adrian. And I'm glad you did." He searched my face, as if trying to believe me. When he finally kissed me, it was fierce, desperate, like he was sealing a vow neither of us could take back. The final storm came fast. The police tracked us down, surrounding the cabin with guns drawn. My captain's voice thundered through the megaphone. "Detective Hayes, step outside. You're under arrest for aiding a criminal." Adrian stiffened, his hand reaching for his gun, but I grabbed his wrist. "No," I pleaded. "Not like this. I won't let them kill you." "They'll kill you too," he hissed. I made the hardest choice of my life in that moment. I walked out first, hands raised, the badge and the gun clattering to the snow. My captain's face was carved with betrayal. "I surrender," I said, my voice steady. "But you don't touch him. Not unless you want to go through me." Gasps rippled through the squad. I had crossed the line. There was no turning back. Adrian followed me out, eyes blazing, but he didn't raise his weapon. Instead, he slipped his fingers into mine, intertwining them in front of the entire world. The silence that fell was deafening. "He's mine," I declared. "I don't care what it costs." For a moment I thought they would open fire. But instead, the captain lowered his gun, disgust etched on his face. "You're finished, Hayes," he spat. "Both of you." We were arrested, dragged into separate cars, our fingers ripped apart. Yet even then, the warmth of his hand lingered. Months passed. Trials, interrogations, betrayals. They took my badge, my future, my reputation. Adrian's past crimes landed him behind bars. But fate wasn't finished with us yet. On the day of his sentencing, I sat in the back of the courtroom, stripped of everything but hope. He looked for me the moment they brought him in, and when our eyes met, the smirk returned not of arrogance, but of love. A promise that prison walls couldn't break us. Later, when the crowd cleared, he managed to slip me a note through a guard he had bribed. Just one line, written in hurried scrawl, "Wait for me. No chains last forever." And I knew I would. No matter the years, no matter the scars, no matter the cost, he would wait. 2 years later, under a different sky, I did. The night he walked free, I stood outside those gates, my heart pounding like the first time I saw him. He looked older, thinner, but when his eyes met mine, the world tilted the same way it had on that Chicago street. We didn't speak. We didn't need to. He walked straight into my arms, pulling me close, breathing me in like salvation. And in that moment, the world didn't matter. Not the past, not the future. Only us. Adrian kissed me like we had never been apart, like every second of pain had led us here. When we finally pulled away, he whispered against my lips, "You were the only thing worth surviving for." I laughed through tears, holding him tighter. "And you were the only thing worth betraying everything for." The city still whispered his name, still painted him as a villain. The force still cursed mine, calling me the detective who fell from grace. But under the fading stars, none of that mattered. We were no longer detective and criminal, no longer hunter and prey. We were just two men who had bled for love, and finally found peace in each other's arms. And if the world wanted to call it dangerous, so be it. Because to us, it was the only love that ever felt real. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with the latest videos.